As Australians get older, losing the ability to drive safely can be confronting. For some, it may mean losing their independence. Australian researchers behind the ROADSAFE Study are exploring the relationship between cognitive function and fitness to drive. It's hoped to eventually arm GPs with an accurate screening tool and rule out costly driving tests for older Australians to keep them in the driver's seat for longer. Joining me now is Dr. Kayla Stefanidis, a research fellow at the University of the Sunshine Coast involved in this study. Thank you for your time. Just starting off with in terms of what this could actually mean, because I'm sure a lot of older drivers are saying, hey, am I going to be forced off the road? Could this actually mean fewer tests for people, not having to take mandatory tests at a certain age to argue they keep their licence?
Yeah, so the whole purpose of this research is to accurately differentiate between older drivers who do require further assessment, but also from those who are cognitively fit to drive and are safe to be on the road. So the whole idea is to reduce the potential for unnecessary assessments in older adults who are safe to drive.
And so the situation they face at the moment, because we don't have these sorts of tools and we get to a certain point where you say, right, at this age, there might be an issue, so you better have a test. That's, as we alluded to, it's not cheap. And I also imagine it's pretty nerve-wracking. People might not perform up to their ability even though they can drive, and they wouldn't have done a driving test for a long time.
Yeah, we know that these fitness to drive assessments can be particularly challenging and confronting for older drivers as well as health practitioners. Older patients are faced with the possibility of losing their license. So we really want to improve this process for not only patients but health practitioners in making these assessments, so we can accurately refer on those patients that do require further assessment. But again, we're reducing resulting in a reduction of these unnecessary costly assessments in those who do not require them.
So how's this all going to work? What does it actually test for, and how will people go about doing it in the future if it is rolled out?
So, as part of this study, we're looking at a combination of cognitive performance measures that best predict whether our participants pass or fail the virtual driving test. So, we'll be looking at cognitive performance measures and cognitive functions that are particularly important and relevant for driving. So, our capacity to react in a timely manner, our speed of information processing abilities, our higher order cognitive processes, such as our capacity to make decisions and respond to hazards in a safe and appropriate manner. So, we'll be looking at all of these types of measures and how they best predict driving performance. From this, we'll be able to determine cutoff scores for each of these measures and the combination of measures. And this, in turn, will inform the development of this cognitive screening tool, which could be administered on an
Okay.
iPad, for example.
So cut-off scores, I mean, presumably when you're testing someone in their 70s or 80s, the reaction time on something for them compared to someone in their 20s, it's not going to be matched. We do gradually decline. I mean, I'm probably slowly in decline, I must admit. How do you sort of factor that in? How do you set these cut-off scores? And how do you factor in, I guess, as well, experience on the road and the fact that maybe some older drivers are driving a little bit slower and that makes them a bit safer?
Yeah, as we age, these cognitive functions, do decline as we age, and this is all part of the normal aging process. But this is not itself a predictor of reduced driving capacity. It's about reductions or cognitive changes that some people may experience. So we're looking at cognitive decline or cognitive impairments that may ultimately affect driving capacity. So it's not about age-related changes. It's more about these cognitive changes or impairments that would affect driving capacity.
Okay. And for someone concerned about this, it's still a test and perhaps you could still perform badly as you do in a normal driving test. Would it make sense to be able to retake it? Can you sort of perform, when you're measuring this cognitive element you're talking about, is it still possible to sort of have a go and then improve the second time?
It is something that could be reassessed. So it could account for practice effects and learning effects and things like that. But essentially, what it would do is just identify or help GPs or health practitioners identify those patients who may be experiencing cognitive decline or cognitive deterioration. and then help them to determine whether they actually need to refer that patient on for further assessment, such as an on-road test with an
All right.
occupational therapist or driving examiner.